What if you heard a ghost talking about you while you were in bed? How soon can spirits reach out after death? Is there protocol when the undead breach security? Today we test the believability of Listener Collection Volume 6.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual.
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
Wow. Volume 6.
Volume 6.
Who would have thought we'd get to Volume 6 and Tyler wouldn't do one since Volume...
I did the first two. I
Volume
did one
2.
and I did two, and then I handed the baton to you.
I guess so. You want it back?
You've been
sometime?
sprinting gallantly.
You did do different collections, though. You did the...
I've been mixing it up, yeah.
Yeah.
I did the Creature Feature twice.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I did my two. Now it's you for the next 2 years.
That's so complicated.
No, and we can do... I've thought about other things, too. It's like strictly UFO listener submissions.
I've been trying to think of alliteration for those. Like, I don't know.
Alien...
That's the problem.
There's got to be...
I'm sure there's something, but we have not figured it out yet.
No, we haven't. But what we have figured out is we are going to tell you when our live Halloween special is. Normally, listen, we are not the type of people to let y'all know things early. We know that. And our patrons double know that. But we're going to tell you right now that our live Halloween special for the fourth time, this is 4 years in a row we've done this live right around Halloween. It is going to be Saturday, October 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern time. As in, I'm not, this is, okay. This is also the first time we're not going to be in Ohio.
That's true.
It's still Ohio time.
It is. It's Eastern Standard Time.
But we will not be in Ohio. So that is October 28th, 9 p.m. Eastern.
We're getting the Buckeye out of the Buckeye State.
Get a digital device by your face. And you know what? We already know you got one there.
You do.
So you'll join us. It'll be fun. And we'll let you guys know closer to then probably where we'll be. But I'm excited for that. But I'm also excited for our listener submission collection, Volume 6.
So this might be the most listener stories I've jammed into a collection so far.
How many? Normally it's like 3 to 4.
This is 5.
5.
Yes.
You should do 6 because it's 6. I think every collection should be that number.
I couldn't get to 6. This would have been a 2-hour episode.
I've seen our drive. You could get to 6, but that's okay. Also, just a reminder, if you have a story you want told on the podcast, go to believeinthebizarre.com, submit your experience. And, if it's long, awesome. If it's short, it'll probably end up in one of these.
That's why we have these. Because you know what? You've said it before. Not every experience has to be lifelong, super detailed. They can be flashes.
Short spooks, sudden spooks.
Of the paranormal. And they're just as valid, just as scary, but they're not lengthy. And that's why we have these collections. So this first story is from Letty. So Letty is from California, and this happened about 4 years ago. She said, quote, "I thought you guys find this experience that I've had with shadow people interesting. Background, I grew up experiencing supernatural situations, but one thing I hated was sleep paralysis. Who doesn't? Scary stuff."
We had someone reach out in the last couple of months and tell us that they've had it stomach down.
Oh my God.
Because they say normally it's on your back, supine, when you experience it. But somebody hit us up and was like, yeah, I've had it on my stomach.
Because I mentioned the one episode they're referring to that would be terrifying.
Yeah, it's just like, it's already bad enough if you're frozen and you're seeing shit. But imagine like the smothering feeling of like either you can't move your head.
Yeah.
You're like, you can only look one way because your head is sideways on a pillow. Or, God forbid, your face is in the pillow.
Yeah, that'd be terrifying. All right.
You can't move? Like,
no.
Ugh.
All right, let's continue. It was very common for me getting sleep paralysis until I was about 20 years old. At 20, I had my last sleep experience, and it was the scariest.
Wait, sleep paralysis or last sleep experience?
Last sleep.
I haven't slept since I was 20. Help me.
That's pretty scary.
That's what this is. It's that Russian sleep experience.
Yeah, right.
Experiment.
The day it happened, I was taking a nap in my boyfriend's bedroom, and I woke up in so much fear, and I thought it was just another episode of sleep paralysis, but this one was different. I was able to see a group of shadow people poking their heads in the room and I could hear them whispering, discussing who should wake me up. I just kept hearing, quote, "Who's going to wake her up? Should we wake her up? Just wake her up." I was terrified, and I felt this was going on for a long time until I saw another shadow person, but this one was different. He came in strong, and all I heard from him was, "Leave her alone." It was a very strong, loud voice. And just like that, the other shadow people disappeared. And ever since then, I have never experienced another episode of sleep paralysis. I found out later that my boyfriend's bedroom used to be his grandfather's old bedroom where he passed away. So maybe it could have been from his grandpa. End quote.
It's like a bunch of teenage boy shadow figures.
Yeah.
Those aren't shadow men. You wake her up. No, bro, you wake her up. And then
No.
hopefully they're still together. Imagine it's like I'm being protected by my ex-boyfriend's grandfather.
It's a little awkward.
That's my guardian angel, is my ex-boyfriend's grandfather.
Yeah.
Because assuming she doesn't sleep forever and take all of her naps in that room.
Yeah.
But she hasn't had it since.
Right.
Unless it's like not depending on where she is, but maybe it was the same entities that were around her. They got scared. Or, well,
I don't know. I had that same thought. Like maybe it was just this one time where something more powerful or more, I'd say more benevolent, scared away something more malevolent.
We've talked about sleep paralysis. Obviously, it's its own episode. There's still a chance that it could just be non-paranormal to a certain extent.
That's true too.
And it's all like it's a little difficult with this one because we don't have examples of what her previous sleep paralysis episodes were like. Like, was it always multiple shadow figures? Was it just one?
Yeah.
But either way, like whether it's like that, I mean, the mind is so crazy that even if it wasn't like true, it's true to her, and she still experienced it. Like, even if her mind did it to her, she still experienced it.
It's true,
and that's terrifying. But it is interesting because it does seem like there was an external force. Because unless it was like her mind created the entities, and then she also, like, a stronger part of her mind created this bigger entity that told him to go away. Either way, very creepy.
Yeah, that's almost like a wrestling with your own subconscious.
It happens.
So let's move on to our next story because we got a bunch of them. This is number 2, and this is from Kelsey from a small town in New York. Not New York City, obviously.
Like a small apartment, maybe, from New York City.
Yeah, this is from the country in New York because it's a big state. It's happened in 2015. And she said that, quote, "My house growing up has always been strange, with strange things going on. We lived in a log cabin where Kelsey's mom actually still lives. And that's in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of the woods, which is already pretty spooky."
Is she a witch?
No. Maybe she didn't say. She said, quote, "My mom actually believes that there is a sort of spiritual connection to her house and the land."
She's a witch.
So I have a few small things I wanted to share and then a big story. First, when her grandmother stayed at the house for the first time, she claimed to have heard someone in the middle of the night saying the name Millicent, weird name, over and over and over again. And she was freaked out, but she thought it could have been a dream. A few years later, my parents found out that Millicent was the name of the wife of the man who originally owned the property. Next little story. Then my parents had my sister and I and my uncle, and we were out for a weekend. And my aunts put my cousin in bed upstairs for a nap. It's a lot of family connections. She left the door open and could hear her talking downstairs. And when she went to go check on her, my cousin, who was about 3 at the time, my aunt asked her who she was talking to. My cousin pointed to a chair that was in the corner of the room and said, "The man in the chair won't let me sleep, Mommy." End quote.
So I just want to say,
yeah,
inherently, well, okay, if you're there, that's scary. That's creepy. Compared to a lot of things that we talk about, I don't find that particularly that scary. But my whole right arm just got chills.
Really?
And by right arm, I'm pointing to my left arm. Yeah, very strange reaction to that. But because I honestly, like, I don't like, it's scary, but like, I'm not trying to downplay it.
Yeah.
But like, we've talked about many things on the podcast. But like, I just, as you were saying that, like, my whole arm just got very tingly.
I pointed to you too.
You did.
Maybe I'm a witch.
There's a reaction.
Yeah. There's another little story. Then growing up, whenever we had a close family member or friend pass away, something would happen. In 2009, my uncle, my mom's brother, passed away suddenly. He was a mechanic who was avidly into birds, and his favorite bird were hawks. The day of his funeral, my mom's car wouldn't start. She never had issues with it before. And then on the way to the funeral, after my mom finally got her car started, she saw not 1, 2, but 3 hawks on the drive.
And 1 hawk in the walls.
And the last thing I wanted to talk about was the one that sticks out to me the most. We had a very close family friend pass away. He was my sister's godfather, and he was the largest part of our childhood. On the night that he passed away, before we knew about it, at 3 a.m., our desktop computer somehow turned on, and the speakers connected to it were turned all the way up, and Taylor Swift was blasting out of them. It woke my mom, my sister, and I up. And we all came out of our rooms, confused, and met up in the upstairs loft. My mom even went as far to make the joke to say, I wonder who died. My sister's name is Taylor, and Taylor Swift happened to be her favorite artist at the time. Initially, my mom tried to say, well, what if the cat somehow turned it on? But the cat had been in my bedroom all night and doesn't have thumbs. So I'm not even fully convinced that all these things were just strange coincidences or something like that, but I do know that they're strange. I do not have answers.
What was the relationship between her sister being the name Taylor and Taylor Swift playing?
I think...
Because it was a family friend.
Because that was the godfather.
But it was a family friend that passed. It wasn't her sister, right?
Right, no. But that was the godfather of that sister, I think.
Okay, I see.
So that's a connection.
My connection to bring football into this
there it is.
I cannot wait for whatever album Taylor makes after this Travis Kelce nonsense.
Well, they're still dating, right?
It's not nonsense. I'm actually very supportive of this relationship.
Yeah, they're still dating. So, I don't know. Those kind of seem typical for a slightly haunted house, or at least a family with a connection to the spirit realm.
But it's not like they were experiencing things all the time.
No, that's true.
Like in a haunted house, I feel like it wouldn't just get reactive when somebody who related to them happened to pass, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think in a haunted house, it would be much more consistent than that. But
so it makes it feel a little coincidental, but also unexplainable.
Okay. So, story number 3. The trigger warning for this story is sexual assault. This is a Sophia story. This one's really interesting because it takes place in Syria in 2019. So Sophia was deployed to Syria in 2019. There were a lot of weird experiences and strange phenomenon, but she said that this takes the cake for the most eerie. So she witnessed a lot of stuff, but this is the strangest. This is a weird story. So for context, this smallish base where she was located in northern Syria, it no longer exists. It had been 2 layers of perimeter wall, roaming guards, and guard towers. So it was pretty heavily guarded. All the entrances were carefully guarded 24/7. And the walls lining the base were impossible to climb. Point being, it was impenetrable for anything short of a VBIED, which is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. I had to look that up. Inside this base, there was a command building, and there was a room that the intelligence analyst worked in, and it required top secret clearance to enter. Much like this base, this room had 1 entry and 1 exit that was guarded by multiple people 24/7. It also required a combination to enter. So second point being, it was impossible to enter this room unauthorized. The night of this event was just like any other. Around 3 a.m., a soldier assigned roaming the guard duty called an SOG was doing his hourly checks, and a part of this requirement, he had to check the secret room to confirm that nobody was in there. And all was going as normal, and the door guard confirmed that nobody had entered the room since the last round of hourly checks. The SOG entered the room and saw a woman in a red niqab, which is the full body wear typical of the area. And she was standing in the middle of the room, staring at him. Shocked, he asked who she was and how she got inside. The only thing she did was stare in silence. The SOG ran out, shut the door behind him, and began yelling at the door guards about the woman inside, who clearly was not authorized to enter, and they had said nobody was inside the room. The guard insisted no one had entered, and an argument broke out. The guard reopened the door to check the room and to show the SOG he was wrong, but they all saw her. They left the room, and the SOG ran to grab the commanding officer, and while the guard stood to watch over the door. When the commander arrived and the room was opened again, the woman had completely vanished. Sophia wanted to reiterate there was only one way in and out of this room, and it was under constant security. She said, quote, I mean, it's got top secret technology and information in there. The entire base was then woken up to search for the woman. All lights on, all soldiers awake, around 300 people, and searching methodically, all entrances and exits sealed, and she was never found. This base was built on a field infamous for being a mass grave where terrorists or ISIS groups sexually assaulted, beat, and executed hundreds of women. The tower guards also reported apparitions that could only be seen with thermal heat-seeking night vision goggles, and it's a haunted base. End story.
So they were just like, all right, move all those graves. Well, I guess they're not putting graves, but this is where the base goes. That'll stop them.
Well, I think
where else are they going to put them?
Kind of isolated.
Yeah, no, that is. Well, first of all, it's tragic.
Yeah,
I mean the history of it is scarier than the story.
I don't know. That story itself creeps the shit out of me.
Does it?
When I read it the first time, I thought when the SOG left the room to go get to yell about why someone's in there, I thought they were all going to go back in there and she was going to be gone.
Then he'd been an SOB.
But the fact that all of them saw this woman. Oh.
Did Sophia also mention what was in the secret room?
I don't think we're allowed to know that.
We only get to see it. She detailed everything.
Yeah.
I'm not saying our next episode is going to be Hollow Earth, but you never know.
Yeah.
No, that is scary. But I feel very happy for Sophia that they had other witnesses.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like that one, oh my goodness. Was it the Carnegie Library? It was the one where there was like the pool or whatever, mm-hmm. and the person saw the woman. Actually, I think it was the same thing. Did they both see it? God, that was a long time ago.
It was.
Either way, the idea that one person sees somebody in there, they leave, they come back, and they're gone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually happy that other people witnessed it. I want to know what's in there.
Oh, the secret room?
I'm okay not knowing. I kind of want to know. But the whole idea of like what took place there, worse than the story.
It's really bad. It's bad. It's got to be bad energy.
Oh, for sure.
It's got to be like one of those places just like the vibes off all the time.
Especially like once you might feel it without knowing. But then once you know what happened there, then it's probably hard to escape.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the next story. So this is from Zach.
What's up, Zach?
Located at his house.
Are we invited?
I love the different interpretations of where does this story take place.
My house?
My house.
Sometimes people put years.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will put location. Sometimes people put both.
I love it. I love the different interpretations of it.
They're like, tomorrow. I'm projecting that this is going to happen to me.
So Zach said, quote, just for reference, I'm gonna give him a southern accent.
Okay. Is it gonna make sense based on where you just said, or
yes?
Okay.
Just for reference.
Oh.
I live in a very rural southern state. And there's lots of woods. You like my southern, or is it too much?
No, I like it.
Okay.
I'm splitting rent with an alligator. He doesn't always pay on time, but when he does, it's good.
He gives me a crocodile tear when he doesn't got rent. All right. Sorry. I'll stop. Okay.
You can do southern. I wasn't messing with you. I mean, I was, but you can still do it.
So one day, while I was walking home, I noticed there was something strange, a bird crowing. And I was curious. I stopped and I started towards it. And once I got on board, I started back away and walking. But this is when I noticed the bird started changing tones, changing from a normal bird to something different.
Caw, y'all.
I'm sorry, Zach. Okay. It began getting aggressive sounding. I started to walk a little bit faster and it changed sounds entirely. It became like a coyote, like a bark, high pitched, almost laughing. And this is when I reached the house. I went into my room. I decided against telling my entirely skeptical parents. And when I reached my room, that's when I met the sound of coyote again. my window was open. I immediately went for my phone and I tried to take a video. And we have the video.
We have the video?
No, I'm kidding. We don't have the video. Of course we don't have the video.
Did they say that? Did they say they would include the video?
No, they didn't.
His mom was like, "You and your gator roommate get upstairs and keep that nonsense to yourselves."
Yeah. All right. So you keep going. This is not the only weird thing that happened to me like this. I don't go for walks in the woods anymore because I always get feelings of being watched. I've also seen tiny human footprints in the mud and the dirt. And this is especially odd because there's no one else who goes into the woods. There's also a very old cemetery less than a mile in the woods away from the house. On the day before this, Wednesday, I heard something outside my window again, and I just assumed it was a bird. But now I'm starting to think about that. I think I'm doubting it. I know it sounds bizarre, but I really think there's something weird going on. I don't know any creatures that do this. End quote.
You stole this from my next creature feature. Someone needs to tell him that his alligator roommate's got tiny feet.
I really like the idea of an alligator with tiny feet.
Who's also his roommate and pays rent mostly on time.
Mostly on time.
So what do you think this is, Charlie?
I'm kind of getting the impression that he might think it's a skinwalker. That's what I think he might think it is. Or, I don't want... the tiny feet.
Yeah, I know. I know why you picked it. I didn't know why you picked it till then. Then I knew why you picked it.
The tiny feet.
Yeah,
tiny...
what could that be, Charlie?
It could be gnomes.
Yeah.
It could be the fae folk. It could be the presence of the Helda folk in America.
Well, we don't know where this takes place. Zach's house.
He said southern state.
He just said southern state?
Yeah.
Any southern state.
Yeah, a state.
Where does that start? Tennessee or lower?
Well, technically Kentucky's southern.
Oh.
The Mason-Dixon line is the...
So Cincinnati.
Yeah. I'm thinking like either Alabama, Georgia, something like that.
I was feeling Alabama.
Yeah.
That is creepy, though. Like, we were messing a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's because it's, you see a bird. Because it's also like, what made the bird stand out, right?
Yeah.
Like, as you see a million birds all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
We haven't covered the topic if birds are real or not.
That was one of the first topics I wrote down.
It's still in my notes.
Me too.
But, it's like you see a bird, you don't think about it. But it's like, it almost makes it feel like subconsciously there was something unique about this bird, other than the fact maybe it was just calling out to him. So that's what got his attention. But I feel like he was noticing this bird. And anytime, like, I mean, I've been outside late at night and I've heard like deer and just the noise that you're not used to hearing or don't expect, it kind of freaks you out. But if you hear a normal noise and then it
starts to change.
Like how many animals, animals have different sounds for different, like I'm alert, I'm feeling aggressive, I'm being defensive, I'm mating.
Yeah.
Like they have different sounds. And maybe it was like you're approaching me and I need to make a different sound to, make you back off.
Yeah.
But based on the way the story was presented, that's not the case.
No.
And it's very creepy.
It is creepy. And I hope my silly accent didn't kill the story completely. But
I, for one, quite enjoyed the story.
I think you're right, though, because it's like, in essence, this is a creepy story.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like
what's in the woods?
Imagine those little footprints, too. Like, because he didn't, and he specifically didn't specify, like, tiny human footprints. Right? Like,
It's a tiny human footprint.
He said human?
Yeah.
Was I listening?
I don't know.
It was the accent, man. It threw me off. It was funny.
Could be.
Okay, so tiny human. Interesting. You got babies walking around here.
Ew. It's terrible. Yeah.
Gotta learn to walk somewhere. That is creepy.
Or spirits of the woods. I don't know.
Or the hide behind with the little tiny feet.
Little
baby hide behind. Just learning.
But also, the fact that he included this Wednesday, which is about a year ago from this point.
I hope he's all right.
I hope so, too. Yeah, it's interesting.
He had to kick out the alligator. Had to get a new roommate.
So you're going to move on to the last story. So this is story number 5. And this is from Moose. And this story, I want to make sure I put the trigger warning. Suicide.
Oof. I won't make the joke then that a moose sent us a story.
This takes place in Washington in 2019 to 2022. Moose said, quote, "I've worked with a big computer company security since 2019. This campus has some weird history. Allegedly, Building 22 used to be a mental health facility before it was a software company building. Multiple deaths have occurred on both campus and at least in buildings, including no less than 4 suicides. Both myself and my former coworkers have experienced seeing shadow figures hearing voices, and aftermath of poltergeist activity. My experience started not long after an employee suffered a medical emergency on campus and resulted in his death. Not long after that, while conducting my patrols, I saw a dark, humanoid figure walk past my patrol car. I swept the entire area immediately and found nothing. A coworker of mine was patrolling the building and found that a kitchenette had been completely ransacked. I'm talking coolers with all the drinks inside strewn about, napkins everywhere, etc. Not too long after that, I responded to another death, this time a suicide, in a garage of the building where the other employee had the medical emergency. Additionally, before my time, the parking garage across from this building saw another woman take her life in the garage. I believe that there is something in this part of the campus that feeds off death. Another off-campus building saw another suicide, and my personal experience just feels off. In the middle of the night, and you could feel eyes watching you move everywhere. Another building, another suicide. This involved a jump on the 20th story of a building. A coworker and close friend of mine actually changed positions because he saw the lady in white and would hear laughter and banging on the walls during his graveyard shift. And this is not the guy who would scare easily. This story was told to me in my training. One night, while on a patrol, an officer was alone in a building and he heard a male shout out, "Hey," in his ear. She turned white and refused to ever go into that building again. And I was working in a building late one night, and the elevators just started going up and down on its own. Then later that same night, while patrolling, I found a punching bag in one of the break rooms swinging and the boxing gloves on the ground. And this was at 3 a.m. And I know I was the only person in that building, and I know those gloves weren't on the ground an hour ago. That building since had been demolished, and the items within it moved to a different building that is now experiencing phantom voices and similar poltergeist activity. And I'm sure it's possible that some of these stories are just made up to scare the newbies. But I know what I saw, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. End of quote. I believe in haunted objects. I think there might be some haunted objects that got moved, or at least attachments.
Yeah.
Maybe those gloves, maybe the punching bag. What do you think?
Do you think there's any chance that it was like when they were saying to scare the noobs? You know, do you think there's any chance that it is just like you're being primed to assume that it's haunted and then your mind starts playing tricks on you when you're there late at night?
For some of it, yes, I think that could be. Not for all of it. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just throwing that out there as a potential possibility.
There's a lot of death in this area as well, too, in these buildings.
Yeah, so that's another thing. Do you think that it's being haunted by spirits of, you know, people that maybe took their lives there? Or do you think that, and it was mentioned in there, like something preying on the negativity. Do you think there's something else there that is causing things to happen?
I think there's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
I will never not think of producer Ben when you say that.
I think there is one, spirits of people that have passed, and something else that's darker. No, I don't know.
Because like the feeding off of it, it's just like...
I don't know if that's an elemental or if it's something even darker than that.
They need to update their Indeed listing and just say like, hey, haunted AF. Like this is...
Yeah.
Like I would not want to be there. Like it feels like it would be oppressive. Just like thick air, spooky. Like I don't want to be somewhere late at night working and you hear your name called out. It's like...
I know. So this is for me and you. I'm going to tell you what it is. This is a Microsoft.
What?
This building that he was working at?
It was Microsoft?
It's Microsoft.
I'm an Apple guy. I'm not saying I don't own Microsoft stock.
I'm not going to put that in the podcast.
Oh, why not?
I don't know. It's such a big company.
I don't think it's going to affect anything.
Okay. All right. Fine. I'll leave it in. He worked at Microsoft.
Okay.
Which is scary to me because
that completely changes like how I envision this happening. I don't know why I was picturing it not being like an office building like that.
Yeah, they said they have a campus, so there's multiple buildings, but
that's true. That's like it's
weird to me to think that one of the biggest computer companies in the world is haunted as f***.
That's where computer viruses come from.
At this point in the episode, we'd like to stop and thank everyone who's joined our Patreon because Without you, we wouldn't be able to do this.
We wouldn't be here.
Not this quality.
We'd be doing the podcast, but we would not be here.
That's true. I'd like to thank Armid, Lorcan, Sharon, Travis, and Leanne. Thank you for joining our Patreon. We have a lot going on Patreon. Some of you recently have joined, and you may have experienced maybe an overload because there's a lot going on. Tyler, what's one thing from the Patreon that you'd like to showcase?
Let's see. One thing from the Patreon that I would like to discuss. You know, we don't get a chance to listen to our episodes much because we listen to them, you know, they're edited, they go out, and then we kind of mentally move on. So I always enjoy the director's cuts, which really, like our good friend Alex has told us, they're not actually director's cuts. We're not editing the episodes in any ways. It's a commentary. But we listen back, right? It's one of the few video segments we do for Patreon or anything podcast related. But we sit down, we listen to the episodes again, we talk about what we were thinking, behind the scenes stuff, things we might have forgotten, whether we still stand by where we were on the believability scale. And it's fun to talk about it and to kind of provide the behind the scenes look. But I also very much enjoy it because when else would I re-listen to any of these episodes with you? You know what I mean? Like, this is a cool moment where we get to listen back to our own episodes.
It's funny about the jokes that you say, like almost right after another. It's incredible to see your mental process.
My reactions are very genuine because when we listen on director's cuts, we'll say something in the episode, I'll say a response, and then past Tyler will say the same damn thing.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty interesting.
What about you, Charlie?
Something I want to point out from Patreon is it's a pretty new thing. Is it mini episode encounters? So we've only done it a couple times so far, but it's basically where we talk about, it's just encounters. Like, we have our encounter section in the episode typically, but these are just like little encounters. They're not always topic based, but it's about 20 minutes of just really interesting content. I just did one that was themed on black-eyed people, and I enjoyed it. I think you enjoyed it as well.
It was one of the only things that people have asked for, and we've given them in terms of content for Patreon. So we want mini encounter episodes, so we give you strictly encounter-based episodes. They're fun to do. They're fun to talk about. Yeah. All the Southern accents.
Yeah.
Tons of other content out there. We got quizzes. We do fun games. We watch Netflix movies. You can get hoodies, t-shirts, enamel pins, Google Hangouts where we just shoot the breeze. Lots of bonus content over there on Patreon. So if you're all caught up on the episodes, you want a little bit more, check it out.
All right, so let's talk about encounter number 1. Do you remember encounter number 1? I barely do.
Yeah, it was, no.
It was about
sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis, about to say.
It was sleep paralysis.
Yeah, the sleep paralysis where the grandfather
You wake her up. No, you wake her up. I don't want to wake her up. You wake her up. That's so rude. You wake her up.
Leave her alone.
All right, chill.
Yeah. That was a good summary.
That was a good dramatization.
So, what do you think actually happened? Do you think it was like the grandfather or some other guardian spirit? We got to do an episode on guardians.
Guardian angels?
Guardian spirits, angels.
I feel like I needed more context. Like, It makes me lean believable because I take these at face value, and they said that this wasn't their first experience with sleep paralysis.
Not their first rodeo,
and we've heard, and there's a million stories of sleep paralysis. But also, like, this, if somebody just told me this one encounter, I'd be like, well, is there any chance you could have been dreaming, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's a good
Like, I don't discount sleep paralysis, but this is just like one snippet.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's like I've never heard one where like the nature of like the you wake her up, no, you wake her up, you know?
I haven't either. Why do they want to wake her up?
I wonder, like, also, like, I don't know.
I got the impression that maybe that they were trying to save her from something else. Like, let's wake her up because she's going to be scared or something. Did you get that at all too?
I wonder, what if she really heard that? Like, what if her boyfriend's going to like play a prank on her and like, you know, like, it's like, you know, where you like squirt bottle somebody or like a water gun and they're like, no,
it was like real life. Yeah.
So she really heard that, but then, you know, they left, or like she heard, I don't know. It's just like, maybe it was something that she really heard that kind of seeped into her subconscious. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, it could easily be paranormal and she had sleep paralysis and there was a guardian spirit there that prevented whatever else was coming. Or it was a very vivid dream.
I'm going to go with actually viable. It's not.
Are
like,
we ranking every single one of these?
I was gonna ask you. There's a lot of stories. Maybe we don't have to rank these.
It's up to you. You're the host of this episode.
I'm
I'm just along. I'm the alligator paying rent. I'm along for the ride.
I think maybe we don't have to rank these because I feel like we feel pretty strongly about listener submissions in general.
This is this is one that I'm between skeptical and viable on, if we're looking at it that way.
Yeah, I don't think they need to get labeled. So let's move on to the next story. This one's about the house in the woods in the small town of New York with the connection to the land. And maybe it feels like the family itself is just kind of spiritual. I don't know how I feel about loved ones sending messages immediately after they die. There have been some good stories like that where a loved one sends a message after they die. These are a little vague. They're not bad. They're just vague.
It seems more like the family has like the spiritual connection rather than like they're living in a haunted
Yeah,
lodge.
It doesn't seem to be haunted. It just seems like there is some kind of spiritualism there.
Was this the one where the boy pointed at the chair?
Yeah.
See, now that's traditional haunting type stuff.
Yeah.
So like then, that's hard to explain. I mean, as a 3-year-old, but it's hard to explain. It's kind of like the meat of the story. I'm kind of like about like the Taylor Swift stuff. Like it's a little strange.
Yeah.
But it's like those things, like I guess the more traditional haunting aspects of it, creepy.
They're creepy. I don't know. It's just a lot of vaguity.
You going skeptical?
I don't. If we were to rank it, I would probably go with skeptical. But again, let's just let it be. Just let it vibe.
Letting vibe the bizarre is the name of this one today.
So let's move on to the next story. Let's blow through these. This is the one in Serbia.
Yeah.
Syria. Sorry.
It's believable.
This one's intense.
It's believable. Multiple people saw it. She didn't sneak in there.
Yeah.
And you know the history.
Yeah. You know the history. It's military people, so they're generally more believable anyway.
This is Clue.
Yeah.
It's Clue, and it's like Colonel Mustard, the lead pipe, and the study. It's like you have everything you need. It's like thing you don't understand.
Yeah.
Multiple people saw it, and you have a backstory. It's like,
and there's no way in or out of the same room.
That doesn't mean that it's guaranteed. That doesn't mean it's always the case if you have those 3 elements. But it's like another. If you put like vanilla, sugar, and like what every other thing is you need for cheesecake, it might not always taste the best, but more often than not, it's going to make a good cheesecake.
Well, I was going to say this is not only
what's 3 ingredients.
What are you talking about? Flour, butter, sugar.
Yeah, but what does that make?
A cookie?
Okay. Like that it's like it has the ingredients you need for a mostly believable encounter.
I was going to say this is not only believable to me, but this is like
is there one beyond that?
I would say this is like
the truth.
The most exactly. This is like the most locked in believable it could possibly be for me.
It is the most logical explanation. It's the most logical explanation. When paranormal is the most logical explanation.
It's top secret. You need a code to get in. It's guarded 24/7. What else could it be besides a demon?
It wasn't a demon.
No, it was a ghost. It was a spirit. But it was a spirit. It was an angry spirit, but it was a spirit.
I got to start adding that to our list. So it goes unbelievable, skeptical, viable, believable, the truth.
Yeah.
Believing the truth.
Yeah, that's right. I would like to hear someone make an argument against that case.
Going from believing the vibe to believing the truth.
Well, it's just a very, very strong story.
Listen, we pivot fast on this podcast.
You got to go with the flow. If you're not flexible, you break. So number 4, the weird sounds in the woods. The weird sounds in the woods. My voice drops when I go southern.
Yeah, it's gator.
You got to make it lower to fight the gators. All right, so
you pay electric this month, gator.
No.
Quit calling me crocodile.
All right, so the accent doesn't help, but it is, in essence, a creepy story.
I gave my pitch for why maybe it wouldn't be unbelievable in the fact that an animal can change the sound it makes based on like a warning sign versus like mating versus just its call, whatever. But based on the way the story is presented to us, it doesn't make it seem like it's like that. It makes it seem creepier, more along the line of cryptid territory.
Yeah.
He was feeling watched, the tiny footprints. It's tough because it's like we can't really nail it down to one type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like something's going on.
Do you think it could be like the big skinwalker kind of thing? Because it's changing shape, form, and sound. and there's a menacing element of it. Now, I would argue it's not as menacing as skinwalkers tend to be, but
I don't know.
I do think that is an angle that the author was pitching. If I had to read between the lines and the subtext.
Kind of leaning the ball.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like that's one of those things that like only they know. They know what they felt. They know what they experienced.
That's true.
Reading it secondhand or listening to it. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I thought potentially I saw one in Ohio, so why can't they be down in Alabama? Or
Yeah, and you're not the only one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm somewhere between probably like viable. Viable that it's something.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier to go viable because we're not saying like, is it
pinned
Faye?
down? Yeah.
Is it a skinwalker? Like if it was that, then maybe you might be a little bit lower.
It could be multiple things.
It could be wherever he's at, there's many forces at play.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk about the security guard. There's a lot going on in that story.
Whatever is in that Microsoft place is probably more top secret than whatever was in that secret room.
I think there are probably some elements of that, yeah.
They have all of our passwords saved in one computer there.
That's pretty easy.
They got demons protecting it. Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but there's a lot of conspiracy theories involving Bill Gates. So why not have one of his buildings be creepy?
But do you think there could be hauntings of more than just dead computers? Like there's suicide, there's the guy, I mean, Moose said it felt like there was an area where it felt like there was something more.
I mean, yeah, I mean, just based on what we know happened there, it's tragic. And who knows what that negative energy could bring. It's kind of like, did those deaths begin the negative energy, or was there a negative energy there present that, you know?
But also there's also the element of human conditions too, like software people, they don't get
software people
that do computer programming, they work a lot of hard hours, right? So there's a lot of like pressure in that job as well.
Reading code all day.
Yeah, there's monotony that can drive people to do things they wouldn't maybe necessarily be inclined to do.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like Microsoft is such a intense. Like I can't speak from personal experience. I've never worked obviously for Microsoft, but they like it's kind of like Sony versus Xbox.
Yeah,
Microsoft versus Apple. It's like when you're heated, when you're at the top of the top, and you're fighting constantly against another tech giant. Yeah. It's like I've read horror stories about people who work for like game publishers and stuff, just because I made the Sony Xbox analogy. Because there's so much pressure to, one, produce a really good product, but also to make sure it's just as good, if not better, than your competitors. Yeah. So I could see how there could be pressure to work more hours, later nights, because you have to always be upgrading and putting out the next best thing.
Yeah. You know, Microsoft is Xbox.
That's true. It is. Yeah. So is Apple Sony? That's not true, but you know,
Apple and Sony are competitors.
Are they
against Xbox? Anyway, I'm
Team Spotify.
I wonder if those hard hours, pressure, combined with a little bit of negative energy, and the way it's described, it doesn't feel like demonic to me. It feels like an element, something in those deep Washington woods is elemental in that kind of way. And it's driving negative energy.
I don't know. Either way, it's very sad.
Yeah. I believe it, though. Thank you for listening to Listener Collection Volume 6. I feel like we need to get like a Super Bowl logo on that.
We're just gonna use those Roman numerals.
Yeah.
And once we get past 10, neither of us are gonna know what number we're on.
Yeah, I know how to read Roman numerals.
Can you do like 43?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do 43.
You have to.
Hell yeah. Listener Collection Volume 43.
Listener Submission Collection. Yeah, I'm going to try and do that. Well, you know what? No. I'm going to find a themed one. Maybe Aliens, maybe Creature Feature Volume 3. I don't know.
Interesting.
That'll be not my next one, but my next listener submission story I do.
Ooh,
sorry, I literally just said not my next one, but my next one. In the next upcoming months, I will do one of those, and I look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
I love the mix. I love the mix of the stories.
Yeah, and if you did enjoy it, please go to Apple and leave a review and 5 stars. And if you're on Spotify listening, please leave 5 stars. And also, you can go into this episode and you can leave a little message. And they're really nice.
Yeah.
Mostly.
And if your name is Zach and you sent us a story and we were joking about how you lived with an alligator.
Zach was a...
was that not that? That
wasn't a real name.
Who was that? Oh, you made that up.
I made up that name.
Okay. Well, then...
I'm going to be in a wedding and the groom's name is Zach. So that's where it came from.
Okay. Well, either way, if your name is Zach and you're from Alabama and you live in Alligator, shout us out.
That felt emotional to me.
But also, we weren't making fun of you.
No.
That was just...
no.
It was a creative choice.
You can make fun of our Ohio accents.
Do we have accents? The A comes out every now and then.
Hey, Mom, look at my apple.
You sound like Tom DeLonge.
Maybe that's the Ohio accent. I don't know. We will see you on the 28th of October.
9 p.m. Eastern time, which means we'll probably actually go like 9:10.
Yeah.
My computer will be really hot.
Yeah.
We're going to have Wi-Fi issues. I'm just kidding. It's going to be so clean cut. We're going to be on site. Because listen, we did the first one where it was Helltown, Ohio.
Yeah.
We were there. And then we did Loveland looking for that frogman. Didn't find him.
No. We have not announced this one, though.
We were there. I know. And then the third year, we were...
gonna be there.
Oh, we were at the Kirtland.
Kirtland, yeah.
We were there.
We were there.
We were there.
And then we left.
We saw a couple melon heads
and we ran away.
And this time we will also be there. And this is the first time we will not be in Ohio.
Oh, should we announce the location right now or do you want to wait?
Let's wait. Let's tease them along.
All right. I'm really excited about it.
We're not going that far, but we will be on site and we're super excited. So make sure you join us October 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Also, if you're Haunty and you're still listening to us, we highly recommend checking out next week's episode. But with that said, thank you everybody so much for listening. We appreciate you as always. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre,
a podcast as bizarre as you are.